Hey everyone, it's Joe Glines here in Dallas, Texas, and my colleague
Jackie here from Denmark, near Copenhagen. Yeah.
If I cough a lot, I'll try not to get anybody sick, but I have a cold, so excuse the coughing. I'll try to hit my mute button here, which would be nice. But anyway, today on our short talk, we were going to talk about actually two very related topics. One is why doesn't AutoHotkey get the credibility it deserves, and then two is what could we actually? Is there anything we can do about it? One of the biggest ones, which I know Jackie and I think it stems. We both agree it's one of the biggest issues. Is the name itself. And Jackie, I don't know if we have talked this much about it, but my background's in market research and branding and stuff. And in businesses, right, the name of a business, the better you have the name of your product representing in a functionality of what it does, the often it helps it really take off because people understand. It's like on a car, a windshield, right? What does it do? It's the windshield. It makes sense, right? It makes it easier to understand. So it's kind of funny because AutoHotkey, because it has part of its functionality in the name, I think in some degree helps it because people have an idea, unlike with Python or C# or whatever, you have no idea what those languages do, right, from their name. But AutoHotkey, you're like, oh, well, some people might know what a hotkey is, right? So it to some degree it might help, but it also probably pigeonholes it into that description of what it's capable of, right? Which we know it's capable of so much more.
Yeah, and of course the name was chosen. I don't exactly know why he chose it back in the day, but it came from AutoHotkey, so that's probably why Auto is in there. So and he wanted to emphasize on hotkeys. He wanted to make that a selling point for the language, and he wanted to make that more easy than what it was in AutoHotkey. So that's probably why he pulled those two together and made it into AutoHotkey. So of course it makes sense. It has history, and I've seen a lot of discussions over the years of people actually trying to come up with new names because it comes up from time to time. That's just a bad name. How about we change the name? And people come with all kinds of brainstorming names. And I'm not really sure if there's been any that has been better than AutoHotkey because most of the people there know the language as AutoHotkey. And changing it to something else means that you need to build an entirely new history for it. You could just as well just make a new language and give it a new name. Mm-hmm. And so it would be just as hard, I believe, to rebrand AutoHotkey to something else. Just
absolutely.
So to me, the name is kind of hard when I tell people in Danish what language I'm really capable in, and because and I can say it in English, but saying it in Danish just doesn't really make much sense. And if I shorten it to AHK, which doesn't really work in Danish either, and it's hard for me to even say it in English. So it's not a great one per se from that, but yeah, it makes it its own thing, and I think it welcomes newcomers more than most other names. Like you said, Python. What's that? What
right.
am I gonna do with that?
Yeah.
Why named like that? What? Yeah.
What's funny is with Python too, right? Is that you see that I think there's two snakes, right, in their logo, but Python got its name. Correct me if I'm wrong. If you know this, from Monty Python. The people who developed Python liked Monty Python. That was why they chose the word Python, not because of snakes, but it was a reference to Monty Python. Anyway, I think it's ironic that they have snakes on their logo, but it's of course Python. When you first hear Python, you think of a snake, not Monty Python.
Yeah, of course, and they probably felt that made good sense for something that was for coding lines and stuff. Probably why they chose the snakes, but I don't really know. I've never read why Python had the name it had,
Yeah.
but it made good sense to me. Both of them could have been the snake. It could have been the actual comedy group, Monty Python. But yeah.
So the other, I think, main thing that comes up is that it's kind of ironic too. It's that AutoHotkey is such a great language for noobs, for people who aren't programmers. They can step into it, and they do basic stuff right often, which is nothing wrong with that. And then some people like Jackie and I will do more advanced things with it. Yet, I think a lot of programmers. Sorry, a lot of programmers. Once they've been programming for a while, they often tend to stop using AutoHotkey. They grow out of it, or however you want to phrase it. Right? They use a different language, and I think that's one of the real issues with why AutoHotkey doesn't get the credibility is that when people new to programming come in and start using AutoHotkey and they think it's great, then they can start seeing what it can do. But that if they keep developing in it, they often switch languages, and then so we don't have this big base of people that really keep doing advanced stuff with it, and it doesn't get known for the advanced stuff it can do.
No, so and I think you're totally right, and I think one of the limitations are probably the same as with AutoHot. Not know the AutoHot community that well, but I don't see them having people stay with AutoHot and build big things and stuff like that. Probably building big things. I'm not saying that can't be done, because it can, but yeah, to me, I probably wouldn't, if I wanted to, let's say, develop an app or a web interface or something like that. I probably wouldn't think that AutoHotkey was the best choice. I probably would try it in AutoHotkey because that's what I know, but I wouldn't think that it was the best choice. And that's probably one of the things that AutoHotkey is often hit by. People having both our community being small, and we know that a lot of new people come in, some stay and some don't, and that revolving door there is probably one of AutoHotkey's strengths, but maybe also one of its weaknesses, because I don't see many people staying long enough to making a big framework, an API, libraries per se. We have a few, and we have some great ones, but we are kind of lacking people that go out of their way to make something really great often. So we get it, but there's often a few months or years between.
Well, and it's quite possible they actually do, but they aren't sharing it, right? Which I doubt. I mean, I think most what's the right way to phrase that? The spirit of the using AutoHotkey is to share your code. I know I share almost all, unless I pay for my thing or it's so specific that I don't share it back to the community. But even then, I'll create one that if I do something I think is cool, I will compartmentalize it and take a bit out and then share that bit when I think is useful.
Yeah, and I think that happens a lot, but I also believe that some of it ties into how AutoHotkey is used and found and stuff like that. Because I believe that a lot of people are finding it as non-programmers, maybe a little longer ahead in their career than someone actually choosing which way to go. And if you started university or whatever, you'll be pointed at one of the known ones, C#, Python, C, C++, whatever. Not something small at AutoHotkey. That's probably something you pick up if you have the tenacity for something that resembles coding, or if you have a task that could make use of some auto work.
You know what? I think you did a good job putting your finger on on one of the things which we've discussed is lacking both in the working community and in college is in college especially and in work. You basically either you are a programmer or you're not, right? There's very few people who you don't have advanced classes on how to use a computer to be more efficient, right? Which I know we both think there should be some lessons on teaching people how to be more efficient with what they're doing. If that class was available, AutoHotkey would probably it, right? At least it'd be up there and have a chance at it because it does a good job at for the intermediate level of someone that doesn't have to be a programmer, right? They don't expect them to be a programmer and doing this stuff. It's a perfect language for it, but that's because that doesn't exist. That's why you're right. When you're down that IT path, you're learning Python and C# and whatever, and when you're not, then you're sticking with the GUI buttons and clicking stuff, right? Manually doing it. What we have to do is to convince everybody that they need to start teaching people a bit how to be more efficient, right? Which I know we've been trying. But
and one of the funny things, or one of the big uses of AutoHotkey is, of course, if you're, let's say, you've been hired or asked to do a specific task, you don't really have any budget because you're just a worker bee, whatever. And for that task, you need to do all of this data handling of whatever type that might be. You might need to go look something up. You might need to categorize something. You might need to do whatever it could be. And to do all of those things, you would need to do quite a lot of manual work, or you could automate it some way. And if the company is high enough up, seeing this task as being so important to have, being so laborious, they'll go look for a company or someone who can actually code it for them in some kind of language, or and say, what do you need for that? They'll say, we'll need 1,000 code hours to do that. Okay, fair enough. We'll pay you X amount of money to do that. And then they'll have some coders doing it in Python within the frame of whatever program or databases this stuff needs to happen in. But if the task is just a little bit smaller and it stays on your desk, then you can automate it if you can do it with something like AutoHotkey. But a company probably wouldn't think that that was the way to go, because they have this kind of, here, we'll just set someone to do it manually. And here, that task is big enough to actually hire someone to do it. So that's kind of what I'm seeing the effect of the task that they just believe it's easier to keep it in-house and have someone do it manually. The thing is that if they actually thought about having someone automate this within the in-house tools, they could get it done for so much lower than what they're doing by hiring someone externally. This one up here might be better or whatever, but
more reliable.
Certainly also more. So of course it's warranted. It's warranted for some things, but if it's just a single move or a database, whatever, or something small that needs to happen each day, don't go for that option. Go for the one in the middle where you actually have someone in-house automated within the systems that you already have without changing the systems. That's probably
So I want to tie in with what you just discussed here with the other thing that which is usually when we talk about this, it comes up is, so many of the people that stumble in AutoHotkey are gamers and they want to write something to cheat, right? And it's one of those things that it was kind of funny because I'm not willing. This is me talking for most people, right? I'm not willing to automate my job because that doesn't help me. That helps the company. But I'm willing to learn how to automate, clicking a thing in a game because it's my game and I'm going to do better, right? Is I think almost the mentality of it of suddenly it's they have their own interest in it, and so they're willing to take the time. And I know, because I know I've talked to you about this too, is it's slowly becoming more of a thing, but gamification of work, right? Making your work thing, making it more fun. Maybe that's a way we could actually because you're doing the same damn thing, right? I mean, you're basically finding something, clicking it, or connecting to it and doing something with it, right? It's the same over, which is why people use AutoHotkey for either, right? It's
Yeah.
It's just
To me, it was the need for doing something simple with the computer, and I've told that story so many times how I found out AutoHotkey and why I used it. And the thing for me is that as soon as I started building on that first script for me and building more on it and seeing what it could do, I might have gotten behind whatever type of schedule that might have been. There wasn't any really tight schedule, but if there had been one. But at some point, I caught up by using the scripts I made. And the fun part for me, the thing for me was that instead of sitting and coming to work each day and moving those data from one window to another, and I would have been doing that for months because there was so much. I actually had fun because it became a mental challenge to automate it instead of just sitting there manually doing something that was just, oh my God, boring. But instead, I actually learned an entirely new thing. I'd already had a knack for computers, but not programming per se. But this here now, 2 years of work just went away like it was nothing, because all of a sudden I had gotten a new interesting something. It got my work done quicker. I had become so efficient that they could almost put anything on my table and I would be able to do it quicker than anybody else near me. So
and what's cool about that, like, is it plays into your point, but as you start getting other tasks, they're different, right? And so you start learning different ways to do things, and so you're still learning new approaches, new ways to do stuff. It doesn't get boring programming because you have different problems to solve, and so I still really enjoyed it when I was working.
Yeah, and that's how I take it. The thing with sitting there and doing normal programming is also problem solving, and some of it is also just whatever bread and butter things that needs to happen to make the code actually end up working. But to me, the thing with automating other systems was that it was kind of, I'd say crossword puzzles or Sudoku or whatever it was to make that stuff happen. It was like, instead of sitting there and doing something really, really mundane, I actually had fun solving the issues of automating those tasks. So to me, that was the big motivator. That was why I kept building my knowledge with AutoHotkey, was because I was actually doing the work I was asked to do while I was learning something completely new, and it was just fun. And it was a great feeling each time I actually ended up saving the script, testing it, and seeing it work, and seeing it complete, let's say, that day's work an hour early, even though I'd been programming the entire day and I was way behind, and then clicking the button, seeing it work, and oh my God, I actually ended up having done the entire day's quota, and knowing that the next day I could probably complete the entire week's quota. So I love that.
So maybe that is a way we can get more companies at least interested in AutoHotkey, is kind of going through what we just explained, right? Especially if you have which I think I told you at TI, when I got hired back into their information technology section and the database stuff, I got hired because the job was so mundane and repetitive that people would work it for like a year and they'd finally get trained on it and they'd quit because it was just a bear. I mean, it was just so tedious. And so the boss was tired of constantly cycling through people. And so I got hired without knowing anything about SQL, and I was using database stuff, but they wanted someone that could automate the process. And so thankfully they brought me in. And then that was actually they actually said, we want you to automate this. So I was very lucky. when I had that boss, unfortunately he left not that long after I got there, but yeah, I think it's one of those things like, you know, your employees would stay longer, right? And you're developing them to be more efficient, right? Maybe that's how we should try to position teaching AutoHotkey is as a job satisfaction and performance enhancement type tool.
Yeah, the thing, this is just something I'm thinking now, is the idea of that is how many of those can you actually have in a company, people that are able to automate parts of whatever they do daily. And I'm pretty sure that with if that's a part of your job description, that you're allowed to automate whatever parts make sense, I think you can have pretty, not pretty, I'm wording this wrong, but you can have a lot of people who are able to do that and just have them become more and more efficient at that. And I'm not saying that it's replacing people, but let's say it's a growing company that's hiring these people and having them automate smaller parts of whatever they're doing. This will just allow the company to take in more orders, whatever type of company it is, and still be able to lift it with the same amount of people if they have the skill set to actually automate parts of whatever is coming in. Yeah. And of course, I'm not saying that that's viable, but it's just something that I thought of as a thing that would make sense with a worker who had that skill set. Because you would hire someone who would be able to truly grow with the amounts of orders. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
Sure.
You have coming in here and something else here and something there. And the company I worked for at one point as a freelancer, they had exactly that. They had companies coming in with their special software and databases and stuff that needed to be moved out of old stuff and into a new database system. But each time a new client came in, their stuff would be different. So you needed to actually automate or the interface with it. All of the company's own database parts was the exact same, but each time a new client came in, you needed to automate parts of whatever they had to make it work. But maybe 1 or 2 people, 3 people, whatever, lifted over time the same amount as, I don't know, an army or whatever. It actually ended up becoming quite a lot of clients that came in. And as soon as you had automated one client's program, if another client with that exact set of tool came, you already had it.
Right.
Ooh,
or more likely they're something similar, right? It may not be exactly the same, but you're already pretty close.
The thing was that, but they might have had SSE and some others, but if one of the others already had the SSE program, then hey, that part was already done, and that just kept growing that way. And I know at least when I stopped working for them, they stopped because hey, we're at a place now where fewer, and because of our foreigner and all of that stuff, probably also more expensive, but still they were able to lift it because over time we had built it so big a library of code, able to lift so many of the people in their industry. So one could say I coded myself out of the job, but still it made sense, and for the company it made even more sense.
Sure.
And it's probably needed anyway, however you look at it. If the company doesn't really benefit from it, why should they actually move that way?
Absolutely. Right. And I don't know if this was the exact case, but on one of your jobs, I know your job ended up lasting a lot longer because you were the one automating things, right? So you kept your job a lot longer because you had that skill set.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's absolutely right. Because of that exact thing, with me being able to automate it, I actually had much more job security, at least in that aspect, which was just great,
Last
and a
week,
bigger salary over time when it became apparent.
last week I attended training on a couple
Last
days.
week,
Yeah, I was at a training seminar for a couple days, and there was one guy there, and I forget the tools he was using, but he said their software, they couldn't connect with the API for whatever reason of their vendor, and he was really disappointed. I'm like, well, it can still be automated, and so I just this morning sent him the video showing where I had free a browser and web scraping, automated connecting two totally disconnected systems. But it's just that understanding, right, of learning that there are things out there you can automate, and AutoHotkey is a great, easy one to do a lot of it.
yeah, and I know for with my current job, which also has to building data on a database, quite a large one at that, but a few of the things there ain't really importable, so it needs to be entered manually, or at least that's what the company believes it does, because it truly doesn't need to be entered manually. You can actually automate it. It might not be something that runs server side somewhere, but it runs on whatever local computer I have access to. So in that aspect, it runs just fine, and it's just a matter of copying data from one place to another, and it's just easier. And I've done it in many types of programs, and the thing is that with Outlook, we're receiving emails. People are doing it all the time, setting up rules, setting up VDAs,
it's a great point.
that handle whatever case, stuff like that. So it's pretty much the same thing with you being able to automate smaller parts of your day. And if people extended that, at least at my company, I know that when an email with that thing in their header, it goes to those and but you could also set it to actually read whatever words are in the bread or the body of the email, and have an even better idea of who to send it or how to prioritize and stuff like that.
So. Or save all the attachments into a given folder or whatever. Yeah, I mean, there's
all of those different things.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I think we got on some good points of why AutoHotkey doesn't get its credibility, but the getting it more credible is, I think, a tough road, because especially that cycling of the new people all the time, right? That's one of the biggest issues.
Yeah, the two of us has done what, maybe not what can, but we have tried to do things. We have websites that also are about this one topic, and we have these video calls, we have webinars, we have quite a lot of stuff, and much of the AutoHotkey community is kind of maybe not closed in, but it's not because people are really out there with their use of AutoHotkey. And again, maybe because they're using it at their work and they don't want to tell everybody around them that they're using it, because either they're afraid of how good they are themselves, or what will my boss say, or they're using it for cheating at games, and again, people don't really want to tell anybody else that they're doing that. So again, that will also keep it under wraps, and the community as a maybe not as a whole, but a lot of the community is also kind of like, we don't like people using AutoHotkey for cheating because it gets the AutoHotkey exit flagged as whatever. And people have made malicious things because, some of the newbies that come in are kind of, I'm just going to say it, not so mature in what they're doing with the language. So they might make a key that will make your computer shut down or make it open things, or people have made keyloggers, and we have just had a big case in Denmark of someone installing those on public library computers and being able to actually withdraw quite a lot of money from people's bank accounts by doing that. So again, that could easily have been done with something like AutoHotkey.
Sure.
And it just gets because we are so small and we have that single main executable, we're really hard hit by people using it for stuff like that. And it makes good sense for others in the community to think, okay, let's just distance ourselves completely from that, to kind of show everybody that we are not condoning that kind of behavior.
Right.
But I can't really believe that anyone would think that anybody would condone.
Right. Yeah. Since you brought that up, that made me think of one other thing, which I know we've discussed is a big limitation, is the fact and a lot of the people in the community really don't like the idea of making money with AutoHotkey, right? It has a negative, connotation to it in the forum. And when you can't I'll say brag just for lack of a better word, but I can't boast or say I made, 20 grand doing something on AutoHotkey. Being able to make money draws other people and gets their interest, piques their interest, right? And if that's not accepted, especially worse, you get shamed if you put that on somewhere. It doesn't draw new people in, and of course, there are also, it's one of the reasons why I don't post. I don't care that the community doesn't like it. I mean, it bugs me. Don't get me wrong. I don't care if I post it though, and they'll hammer me or whatever. But I just don't do it because I don't want to deal with all the antagonism. Right? It's just not worth it to me. But that definitely. I don't think I told you this. In one of the videos where we had about making money without a hotkey, someone posted on our video on YouTube, saying, basically, for the love of God, don't charge for, doing this. You should be doing this for free. And they went on with a lot of other stuff. And I'm like, I could go back and forth with this. I just said, how about I don't tell you how to live your life and you don't tell me how to live mine. Right. It's kind of ironic that he's like, he thinks he can tell me that I should do this for free. Right. Whatever. It's just, neither of us do this for the money, right? We're doing it because we like helping people. I don't mind making some money, right? It's just that's not what my main thing with AutoHotkey is.
I totally love that the AutoHotkey forum and the AutoHotkey exit per se and all of that stuff is kept totally free. That makes a lot of sense. It's open source. It's under a specific license. It needs to be like that. And that's good and great. But what's the issue with you charging for using your time, your skill set?
Right.
That's the issue that I'm not seeing. Why is that actually a problem? You do it with everything else. If I'm a carpenter and I build stuff with my hands, shouldn't I be able to charge for whatever I did?
Right.
I don't see it. I can see that, okay, on the forum, if you go into a post, help someone for free, give them a small snippet of code, that's fine. Absolutely. If they then ask you, I have this project here, can you do that for me?
No.
In my book, you're fully allowed to say, I can do that for a fee.
Yeah.
Why shouldn't you be allowed to say that?
Right.
You can also say, no, I don't want to do that. That's also fine. You can also say, yeah, let me look at that. And if it's easy, give it to them for free if you want to. But it's your choice. If you want to charge for it, do it.
Yeah, that's a good summary. Yeah.
Yeah,
and I often, I do help people for free usually, but when it's a bigger thing, I'm like, yeah, I'm not spending hours upon hours for someone for free, unless I'll say, look, if you want to learn how to do it, we'll jump on Zoom and I'll walk through and start teaching you how to do it. Right. I'll even do that, but I'm not going to code for people for free. But yeah, anyway, I think it is one of the things that prevents AutoHotkey from getting more people interested in it. Is
There's nobody. It's a rare time when there is some kind of job opening where AutoHotkey is mentioned. It's such big news that it's posted on the forum, the only real official place to communicate AutoHotkey, or in all of the chats and all of that stuff. And, oh, look here, and it's maybe once a year that actually happens, and I don't know who actually applies for those, but it's good that it happens, but it's so rare that people will never actually see AutoHotkey as a straight career opportunity. They'll, as we said multiple times, it's a good way for you to extend what you're able to do.
Yeah.
And if we could get companies to actually see that it's a great skill to have. But the problem is that they would much rather put coding in Python or whatever into there, because it's just such a big avenue of people that you can reach by putting that there instead of putting something like AutoHotkey. You would probably be better off of saying able to script or automate daily work, whatever. What was it you had at one point? RP.
Yeah, I know what you're thinking of. It's RPC, robotic process, RPA, automation robotic process.
RPA. Yeah, something like that. Something a bit more generic than actually using the AutoHotkey name. But I don't see that much either, even though people are actually hired to do quite mundane tasks at times. I know that people are still hired to do data entry or whatever stuff like that is called. Yeah.
Cool.
I'm not sure we can do much more to actually get AutoHotkey adopted. At least the two of us has really tried the best we can to try to get it out there.
No, I agree.
One thing AutoHotkey could do if it had more gold on the in the foundation, might be one way to put it, was to actually advertise for itself.
Mm-hmm.
There's quite a lot of venues that you could put in ads for a scripting language like AutoHotkey. And I've seen good effects of that. So without actually having that much money, AutoHotkey could probably get far by doing it. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. The question would be, who are we bringing in?
Yeah, and that would, of course, be the demographic that should be used to kind of determine who we're getting. Instead of just going blindly for keywords, it should be targeted a bit more. Yeah. And that's where of course you can do it with Google as well, but unless people are actually logged into Chrome, they wouldn't actually know who they truly are. They would have an idea, but you couldn't specify by age or by where they worked or anything like that. They need to be logged in for Google to actually know that. But with other things like Facebook, Reddit, all of those other things that are actually things that you log into, there you have that information much more often than you have with a normal Google search. So I think those venues would really make it much more easy for you. LinkedIn is also a good idea, and just emphasize on people that would make sense, that are maybe not in, I don't think you can say the gaming age anymore, because I think that most people up to the age of 50, 60, whatever, are still playing games of one.
I was playing some Xbox One today, so.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's not a thing, and I believe that it will keep being that way. People will keep playing up until they can't see the screen anymore or whatever. That's my belief. So, but yeah, that's just a little extra thing. I think that with ad donations, whatever, that would be a possibility. Where AutoHotkey and the people there that don't even want people to make money with AutoHotkey, they truly don't want to ask for donations. But to me, it could be more prominent for people to just be allowed to donate.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have one official forum. Everybody goes through there if they're learning AutoHotkey at one point.
Yeah.
Why not have some kind of donate button?
I didn't realize what there is. You have to hunt for it, but
yeah, and that's the thing. You actually have to hunt for it. I know that there is one, but to me, it should just have been just that little bit more. What's the term?
I like
visible.
That. Take some of the funds, make it more visible, and then take some of those funds to advertise to bring in more people. That's not a terrible idea.
Because hey, it's something that you are actually allowed to with a what is it that the I can't remember exactly what kind of foundation it is that they made, but it's a non-profit something. And I'm pretty sure that you are actually allowed to get donations and use them on stuff like advertising.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
It was, the foundation was founded and blah, 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 and it was created to prevent monetization, ensure continued existence of the software AutoHotkey, and naturally continue the support for it. So it makes good sense to me, at least, that AutoHotkey as the exit and the language is not monetized. So
sure. Yeah,
but I still feel that the forums would easily have a donate button. I don't see how that could be an actual issue, other than people actually donating from time to time, and someone would have to manage that.
Yeah, I'd even say, hey, if you're an admin on the forum, you get $100 a year or some sort of something for your time, because some of these people spend a lot of time doing stuff, and I wouldn't mind them be able to get
exactly. Let's say that there was a big donate button, not something that would scream anything, but it could be not hidden, but made to blend in with the rest of the page. So it was just there if people were looking for it. So they didn't actually need to go search, but if they just looked visually on screen, it would be there, but without actually emphasizing itself, that wouldn't be needed. But a few donations would come in here and there over a year. And whatever that amounts to over a couple of years, you would have an idea of what the budget would be. And then just use parts of that budget for things like advertising or server costs, or giving a small bonus to the admins, or whatever it might be.
Something, yeah.
Or like you said, again, it's probably exactly, some advertising. So, yeah.
All right. Well, I don't know about you. I think we covered this pretty well.
We did.
So
I think you're right.
Let's go ahead and wrap it up. So even though my coughing seems to have subsided, but I don't think I need to keep coughing on everybody. So thank you. That was fun.
Fair enough.
It
was.
See you guys next week.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Bye.
Bye.